Well, a big win for Order over LFO. Sees them get all 3 points. We move forward, though, for the night. Knights versus Bliss coming up very shortly. Both teams on 3 points apiece. One of them, for the moment, guys, will actually move into first place. It's a good opportunity for Team Bliss against, of course, one of the favorites, if not the favorites in Knights. Depending on your allegiance, whether you're a Knights fan or a Chiefs fan, of course. For Bliss, this is a really good testing opportunity for them.
Yeah, this is actually quite an exciting matchup on paper. In the regular season of Stage 1, Knights finished at the top, and Bliss finished in third. Now, unfortunately, due to the Gauntlet format, we didn't get to see these teams necessarily go head-to-head in the playoffs, but I'd say that, you know, maybe they're a little bit closer than we actually think. I believe that the Knights are still a head and shoulders above the rest of the region, the rest of the league, but maybe Bliss aren't that far behind.
No, definitely not, and I think they could very well be a surprise packet for the season. Let's go and look at the Knights, though, who most definitely are not going to surprise anyone, at least not in the way you might think. They are, of course, a well-oiled machine that's now looking at, into capitalizing, and this time maybe going all the way here for OCN. And really, it's hard to see any faults with this roster, any weaknesses. It's now just about stamping their authority and just getting the job done and getting to that, tail end of the season, those sort of playoff moments, and getting to that position again.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about the Knights is they're really starting to establish a bit of a legacy for themselves. They're one of those rosters in the region that have been together for such a long period of time. I mean, we saw yesterday before the match, and even now, they just seem like a really well-rounded unit and really cohesive. They're always just talking. They look quite relaxed. They sort of go about the game in a professional manner, and it seems to be paying off. They are continuously improving. It has been a steady improvement over the last couple of years, and all of these players can step up when required.
They certainly can, and they are a very formidable team, but they are prone to some losses every now and then, and a team like Team Bliss could very well be said team. Of course, Jigsaw has been a big name. I mentioned him, obviously, when we had LFO, now on Team Bliss. This is the team that, gets off to a start beating Wildcard, a team that's a little hard to read right now. But if they can beat Knights, that is a team we know very well and where they're at, so that could give us more signs as to where Bliss is at.
Yeah, Bliss, as I mentioned, last season had quite a solid result, finishing third in the regular season. Unfortunately, didn't quite convert that into anything too meaningful, dropping out in the second round of the Gauntlet to Copter, but we just don't know exactly how much they have improved over the break. They did take down Wildcard yesterday, so that would instill them with some confidence. And that said, I mean, Wildcard not necessarily at full strength just yet, but Oda and all his fans in Twitch chat behind him are ready and raring to go for this matchup. I mean, on the topic of Oda, he actually posted on Twitter earlier today that he was eating a Zinger box from inside the box, not on a plate. So that could be a big asterisk over his name heading into this match.
Do you question his credibility now as a person, moving away from the things that, a bit of rivalry between you two, but is he changing in your eyes?
Well, it's good to see that he's finally gone to the correct way that you're meant to eat it, but, you shouldn't be messing up with your traditions heading into an official matchup, so who knows whether or not that will actually come back to bite him.
Let's go and look at the map, Vito, and see where we're going to be heading for this highly anticipated matchup between Knights and Bliss. And I don't know, could be Oregon, could be anything. Honestly, guys, I will say that for this game in particular, I'm kind of expecting maybe a bit of structure.
Yeah, no.
No?
No, we probably will. No, I'm just meaning. I think the Knights love to play a little bit more of a structured play style. I'd say Bliss can be a little bit looser, a little bit more unpredictable, but that tends to be the nature of some more of the inexperienced teams in Oceania. Knights, I mean, they set the standard really by being super duper structured and love to go about their own play style. They focus internally, they don't worry too much about their opponents and try not to read into that too much.
Let's go and have a look at those map vetoes and see where we are going to be heading, and it's going to be Consulate for this matchup. Coastline was the last ban from Bliss. That would have been a bit of fun to see, but I think Consulate too should also be a little bit spicy. None of that structure, none of those Oregons, none of those clubhouses, nothing of the sort, guys. Ultimately, we are going to a different map again. Yesterday was all Clubhouse and Cafe, and of course we had Oregon, and now we've got Consulate. So it's nice to sort of mix things up a bit.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm not a huge fan of Consulate these days. It's kind of a messy map, but hey, it offers something a little bit different if you're maybe not as fond of some of those, as you mentioned, super structured maps. Oregon and Clubhouse, which funnily enough were both banned out first. Consulate offers a really nice change of pace. Recently, it actually has turned to be quite defend-decided. So who knows?
Surprisingly.
whether or not that will happen once again.
Yeah, it's an intriguing turn of events here for Consulate, where once known as an attacker-sided map, we're seeing defense start to change a little bit in terms of the meta, play styles, and how teams tend to play it out. Big game though, Knights versus Bliss. Both teams, of course, 1-0 off the back of Playday 1. And only one of them is going to be able to get into that top spot at the conclusion of this game. It just depends on how many points they will be on and for how long that they can maybe stay in that top position.
I mean, Oda's really going to be feeling the pump. I'd love to know who that is behind him in the background, but I cannot stand anyone standing behind me when I'm gaming, so feels bad for him. Either way, on the bans, Sledge and Thatcher. Taken off the board. Sledge offers a lot of versatility on this map.
I bet he's watching the stream.
And I mean, he 100% he is. For sure he is watching the stream. As Miro gets banned out as well, typical on Consulate. As for the final ban, you would expect the Valkyrie to be taken off the board. It is a swift ban from Bliss. We'll see it as they lock it in. No, Kaid. So trying to make that garage a little bit easier to open, maybe some of the surrounding hatches around the map. Now, one thing that we did see, again, quite prominent in the last map, was the Flores. But Consulate is a map that is very centric around window play. And the thing is, to use Flores and to use those Rotero drones, you need to be able to place them on the ground. Which means that Flores really doesn't, or hasn't at least so far, seen a lot of gameplay. Dino's just going to completely throw that out the window.
He's just like, don't worry, guys, I'm just going to take it.
The caveat to that is that you can sometimes pull it off. Second floor, quite challenging. But basement and lobby, honestly, I don't think they're that far out of the realm of possibility. You've got the main door to send drones through. You also have yellow, and if you get control of Visa, you could send them through there as well. So that's an interesting thing to keep track of in this round is, will Flores still be as effective?
I think basement is the site for Flores, and not only in terms of clearing out utility down below, but you can also then send it up into piano, get early vision there, depending on how teams are playing. So it is, yeah, you're right. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because on these sort of other sites, the rappel game is so prevalent for teams on the attack that, yeah, you're not going to be able to get as much from Flores. But Dino's is obviously a very smart player. These players are all very smart, and they should be able to figure out a way to make it worth bringing the Flores in. Because at the end of the day, the operators that are the best are the ones that are the most versatile. It's especially going into the first round. Some teams go basement first, others, go press lobby. You're not entirely sure exactly where you're going yet.
5 seconds remaining.
How aggressive will Bliss be, though? I would assume quite aggressive, and Jigsaw prepping a spawn peek over towards admin office would suggest that will be the case. Doesn't quite find his mark. The bus spawn, all of those players going a little bit further to his left, towards the eastern side of the map, means that Jigsaw won't find his mark just yet. Todd is down below in basement, offering some support with a heartbeat sensor. He can call out these players as they rappel up, and it does look so far like the Knights will post up a couple of players on that side of the map to pressure admin.
And as you touched on, obviously for Constellate, it's seeing defense for whatever well, there's a few reasons why, but for whatever reason has become so much more prevalent. And the main reason for that usually is just so we're seeing defenders making it very difficult for teams to actually get into the building and punishing sort of the rappel game. We're seeing runouts, we're seeing a lot of spawn peaks and the angles that are being held. So if you're Knights in this position, it's all about getting inside without losing anyone. I know that sounds a little bit obvious, but that's really step one. Once you can do that, it really then does open back up to what is the old sort of meta where the attackers should be a little bit more prevalent in, being favored.
Well, step one of winning any objective for the attack is just getting inside the building, and the defense has recently, in this current meta, found out that playing ultra aggressive and stopping these players from getting in can be effective, but you also need to be careful that the rappels aren't powerful either, and Dino shows their power in finding that opening kill. Flashes out box position, Shade Force down, and now Dino can start to consider a rappel in. With Yellow Stairs control though from the defense, that might be a little bit trickier, but for the most part, the Knights are doing a good job in pressuring up above, and their time management for the current Consulate meta is fine as well.
55 seconds left on the clock, and it's a good opening round so far for the Knights. All about capitalizing. Oda's going to get eliminated too. There's one back through Todd's Nitro Cell, but Knights have just got everything covered. 4 versus 1. And the one being Todd for Team Bliss. At the start that they would have liked to have seen, considering recent meta shifts, I guess, on this map and defense, favoritism, and all of those sort of equations. But it's a long, long way to the end of this game. 1 round in. Knights, good start, but nothing too flashy.
Yeah, and I think that is probably one way in which you could sum up Knight's playstyle in a sentence is often it just gets the job done, isn't anything too fancy or flashy or extravagant, and that's a testament to just how well-rounded the roster is. If you're not frequently having players go absolutely huge, that's sometimes actually a good sign that everyone is stepping up to the plate and not really putting much pressure on anyone to necessarily step up massively. That said, of course, we are only 1 round in. Team Bliss will rotate towards basement, and we're going to see the Tachanka brought to the table. Todd electing to select and lock him in, and the floors as well will also be established. So we'll just get it again, another insight as to how strong those drones will be. You said, Xenox, that you believe basement, he'll be extremely potent, and honestly, I agree, right? You've got a lot of utility that needs to be cleared. The shield from Oda, for example. You also have the Banshees from Jigsaw, as well as those ADS devices from Repix. So quite a bit to deal with, and Dino will be looking to get to work quite quickly on that.
Obviously, Sage on the Thermite, that's going to become a very common theme if it isn't already for Consulate. Those smokes now. For Team Bliss, it's about responding here and how they're going to play out. Kind of expecting spawn peaks and seeing if they can find anything early, but Knights will be switched on and ready for this. Understanding that Team Bliss are going to be playing this sort of play style where they're, you know, looking out the windows, looking for these spawn peaks, being a bit of a nuisance, making it hard to get into the Consulate. And it's about just patience more than anything. You don't need to throw yourself towards the building. Play a little bit slow. That's okay. You got lots of time.
With that Kaid band out, opening this wall really shouldn't be much of an issue, if any. Shade is playing the mute. 2 gems are placed on the wall, but just like that, the nade, Juicy will clear them both out. Well orchestrated there from the Knights, well timed and well executed. Dino can now start to send out those Rotero drones and get to work in sight. Bliss already going quite deep as Hayward shuts down Repix on the spiral stairs. He pounces on him. That patient outlook on this round paying off for the Knights so far.
Yeah, and slow and steady is working out well for them. It's not just a nursery rhyme. Sometimes it does definitely work out well for teams. Hayward still over towards lobby. Jigsaw feeling the pressure here. The pressure mounting on all of Team Bliss. There's a trade. Now Oda gets 1 too, but it's a double kill now for Hayward as Knights are actually on site. Sage is going to be planting that diffuser. Hayward's got control of press. So just still loitering around in lobby as he now makes his way towards Piano. He's got a man waiting though, a sharp player in Hayward. 3 for the round. Knights have got the first 2.
Hayward is definitely a player that you do not want to get out of reach, unleash. He's not the man that will give you a second chance. He has been really sharp for a very long time, and teams have struggled on occasions to shut him out, and the stats do reflect that. In past, he has been right at the very tip top of the Oceanic region, and he's looking to start off Consulate with a bang. It's been a solid start for him so far. Bliss, on the other hand, struggling a little bit. Just finding it difficult to get these opening picks, or at least trade out the picks off site when they are falling. I do like their intent to keep switching up the objective. Split will now be attempted, but it hasn't really felt like any of these sites are going to be overly successful.
wondering as well what Bliss maybe need to do. It's only 2 rounds in, but they're on the defense for Consulate, which has, of course, been quite favorable for teams recent times. Haven't really looked like being in the opening 2 rounds. It's been mostly Knights. And they may be just allowing Knights really just sort of passageway into the building too easily without finding picks or even just getting some damage. I have to wonder how much Bliss are really committing to making it difficult for Knights to get in, because right now Knights are just basically walking in the lobby and then finding a kill, and suddenly they're going to man advantage and they're close by to sight. This is better from Jigsaw, being cheeky, a little bit of damage. It's not a lot, guys, but it just keeps Hayward, you know, a little cautious.
Yeah. Looking to try and shut down Hayward. I'm sure Bliss would have been thrilled if they had found that pick, but just wasn't meant to be. Juicy applying some pressure from the V's window. More drones being used elsewhere to try and ascertain where these defenders are located. Still 9 available for the Knights, and plenty of utility as well that can be incorporated into the setup. Josh taking control of main garage, or at least thinking about taking control. Would suggest that the Knights are going for a western sweep across the map, but the diffuser has interestingly been dropped outside of the Visa door, so maybe some sort of split inch here from the Knights. But either way, it's slow and steady. Again, the Knights aren't doing anything too flashy, nothing too overly aggressive. That is a trend that seems to be continuing.
I'm reloading.
At 45 of the clock, still 3 Rotero drones available for Dino. He's been able to make good use of the Flores so far. That's a decent gun as well, right? It's not just always about the drones. And very much like the look of that operator. Dino's going to be careful, though. On the other side of long desk, he's got an opponent. He's taking a bit of damage.
Ooh.
Repix actually will do a bit more damage to the head. Team Bliss have got an advantage. They capitalize even more by getting a quick second from Oda onto Hayward. 2 big pieces of the Knights pie have been taken off the board. 5 versus 3. Bliss now in a position where they're going to have to be able to capitalize, finish off this round. Josh gets one back, but still a minute left.
Bomb located by
Juicy
attackers.
still positioned outside this window, been there for at least a couple of minutes. He is forced to move off and link up with Josh, but that diffuser outside the Visa door, and Team Bliss seeming to have an inkling as to where they may be pushing from. They should be able to lock that out. Josh, though, from below, he's inside of Archives, shuts down Shade, who was creating a line of sight with the secondary shotgun. That does prove costly. Juicy drops to assist, but Jigsaw's there to immediately shut that down. Josh does not have the diffuser in hand. He needs to try and find 3 picks, but he is definitely in a pickle.
Much better from Team Bliss. Josh has got 3, almost had 4. That was as close as it can get. Repix, though, of course, has that headshot position covered and doesn't miss. And a sigh of relief for Team Bliss fans, because it was looking like a Knights onslaught early days. And they get one back there in the 3rd round, make it 2-1. 1 on the board, now build from this.
Back down to the basement we will go. Last time the Knights not really having best of times, but that's what it is. I think they did win the round. I can't quite remember. My memory is faltering me, so I don't even know why I went down that trail, because I didn't even know where it would lead. But either way, it's going to see the Valkyrie 6 picked here from Bliss. I anticipated that maybe she would get banned out here, quite common on Consulate, as a lot of those cameras can be hidden in incredibly sneaky positions. And by 6 picking it, it means that Team Bliss can catch the Knights off guard, who on the attack haven't brought the IQ. And if Repix has some nasty positions lined up, Team Bliss should have a wealth of knowledge to work off in this round.
You say that, but this is also the site where you're going to see Flores be probably the most impactful. So it goes kind of both ways here, right? Like, yeah, okay, you've got the black eyes and you've got the ability to get that extra information, but then Dino's got 4 Rotero drones and can just basically blow everything up. So what are those really going to do? So it goes both ways here. But this is what you like to see from Jigsaw and Bliss, being aggressive, being in the face of Knights on this map, you basically have to do it nowadays as well, guys. Like, it's almost a formality that if you're not spawn peeking, if you're not being aggressive to the players as they make their way towards the building, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, and the goal isn't always necessarily to find a kill, but it is to put pressure on the attack, even just perceived pressure, and forcing them to check windows and drone early and make sure that these positions are cleared, just so they can even get close to the building. And that isn't even them getting into the building, and that is the struggle that Consulate is, I guess, posing for attacking sides in competitive. It's quite challenging to get inside of the building, and that's why, for the most part, on Garage, teams are just electing to open up the main garage and go into front white default plants. Trying to go for roam clears and map clears can be really, really tough.
And I think with this sort of meta establishing as well, what it does do is it really actually slows the game down quite dramatically, because you can't have attacking teams just sort of rush onto site. Not on some sites you kind of can, like obviously lobby, for instance, but I'd say outside of lobby or the other sites, you're not going to be able to sort of rush in. You're going to take your time, you're going to drone, you're going to make sure everything's sort of cleared out. You know, this position here from Shade, you know, this meeting window, it's pretty common, vault out, catch someone on the rappel. And Hayward is so prepared for this that he's holding this far back, guys, right? It shoots that shot. He's basically trying to bait him to act like, you know, he's out there on the rappel, or he's even just out there in general in a position that's vulnerable. Instead, he's actually waiting for the run out. So really smart play, but this is also why the defense in Consulate does so well, because it's biding so much time. There's a minute and 10 left.
The Knights do have control of the top floor, but there are still a couple of players lurking around quite aggressively in great positions to fall back. You have Jigsaw inside of Visa, Repix down towards Dungeon, and they can just pepper a couple of shots, and they should be in a great position to just run back. That said, Josh on Visa could shut down Jigsaw. It's an awkward engagement, but neither player takes any damage. It's a 5v5 with 45 seconds on the board, and I'm not even sure what the progress has been over towards Garage. Has it been opened? It has, but those are really awkward lines of sight. I don't know if any of those are enterable, and the Knights could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, 3 Rotero drones still available to Dino in terms of clearing at util, but I think we're long past that point, right? There's only 25 seconds left. Shade pushing up, expecting pressure over towards these garage doors. Josh opening pick. Shade should get that. Does. He's never going to allow Dino to survive in that position. 14 seconds left. Gaspabe out from Oda. That's his last one. Sage is going to go down. Juicy and Josh both combining elsewhere over towards server stairs is going to be Jigsaw. Oda, the two that need to survive for just a couple more seconds. All information has been spotted, though, through Oda's spot. He does die, but Jigsaw does not die, and so Bliss win the round. It's pretty simple, guys.
Yeah, it was a 3 versus 1, but the kit didn't go down, so the defense does hold on. And look, that really should have been a Knights round. Now, we didn't see exactly what happened there on the garage breach, but for whatever reason, the Habana did a really messy job in opening that up. Now, not exactly sure as to exactly how that came about. Was it being denied by impacts, nitro cells potentially? Was it being, I don't know. Something weird was going on there on that garage breach, and it did force the Knights to filter through. Sure, they had the man advantage when it came down to the 0-second mark, but they didn't get that kit down. And that meant that Jigsaw, with that position on top of the stairs, could win the team around. So, yeah, quite an awkward one. Difficult to dissect, but we move on. And it's time for lobby.
And it's 2-2 with only 2 rounds to go in the half. So the opportunity now presents itself for Team Bliss. You know, a little bit questionable in the first 2 rounds, but ultimately a lot of that just came down to how well Knights were playing. Now we're seeing Team Bliss show themselves how they can sort of actually play this map a little bit better, and they're doing that, right? So they've turned the tide a little bit, and now we got ourselves a bit of a dogfight here on Consulate, which is really good to see, taking it right up to this team in Knights, of course, one of the best in the region, at times almost seemingly unstoppable. And for Team Bliss, this is probably the part of their development where they're at, where it's about now getting these big scalps to eventually confirm that, you know, like a top 4 placing come season end. So, and these sort of results, it may only be Playday 2, guys, but they go a long way for the season as a whole.
Yeah. Short season, compact season, and every single point does matter. In this round in particular, we saw Todd on the Valkyrie throwing out some of those black eye cameras, and again, without IQ on the table, players like Dino, for example, outside are likely being seen here by the defense. Todd, you can see on the right of screen, does have his gadget active. He is watching those cameras intently. Oda as well, flicking onto his Yokais, and that's a good positive sign from Team Bliss, trying to exactly call out where the defense is pushing from. But Hayward drew up shade. His head taken down. It's a good start for the Knights as they look to try and take some sort of foothold on the map. Admin looks achievable as Jigsaw's forced back, and again, a disappointing start for Bliss.
And I think for Knights, maybe something that's been a bit of a key focus for them has been getting an opening pick on the aggressive nature of a defensive team on Consulate. Playing a little bit defensively, but from that defensive position, looking to then find a pick, punish, maybe some sort of overzealous. That's going to be the bench taken care of with the Rotero Dream. Rapix, though, reads the play perfectly, jumping out the window, top of Yellow, gets both Sage and Dino. Perfectly played from Rapix. Just like that, how quick things can turn from what looked like a good start for the Knights in the way that they were approaching this building once again, and then just an ultimately awesome individual play from Rapix.
Can Rapix step up again? Hayward outside the yellow stairs poses a threat, but both players will run away. The diffuser not in the hand of the attack. Outside to the west, someone will need to go and sweep that back up and prepare for a plant later into this round. But at the moment, the Knights looking to try and take on some ones, win some gunfights, and bring back that man disadvantage that is against them. Hayward with those breaching charges can create a line of sight in towards anti-chamber. Todd is safely inside of public bathroom. Oda under threat from above and is forced to reposition. Hayward on the hatch, desperately trying to find a pick. Everyone from the Knights just trying to find something, but Bliss are not playing into their hands.
30 seconds left on the clock. Hayward just spotting a pixel of a head. Repositions slightly. Oda's going to position himself as well with his late game. The rush comes in. Rapix gets the first pick, though, onto Juicy at this moment. He's now got 3 for the round. Josh just has to push in a meeting. He wasn't maybe even expecting Rapix there. Still got him in anyway. Drops down into lobby. Should get the second one as well onto Jigsaw. Does so. 2 versus 2 for time. Running out for the Knights, and they're running out of players as well. Bliss with the double at the end to close out the round. And they're on a bit of a streak here on Consulate.
Solid work there from the defense, locking out the Knights. Time being bled. A great play from Rapix as well. Really good effort there from Josh at the end. Desperately trying to find as many kills as possible, and in the end, just not having enough time to work with 5 seconds left. 2 players remaining for the defense. Team Bliss with the lead. I think, to be completely honest, a 3-3 half here for the Knights is probably favorable. Team Bliss, even a 4-2 is not incredible. A 5-1 probably would be absolutely ideal if I'm being honest. Maybe I'm being a little bit too pessimistic for the defense, I don't know, but of the attack rather, but I do think Bliss really still need to win this next round to be a good chance. And that is not a great start. The impact grenade from Oda. I think he, you know what happened? Deep analysis here. After he ate his Singer box, right, he forgot to wash his hands properly, and the chicken grease forced his fingers to slip, and he fattened his gadget button. I think that's what happened.
Oh, you're a funny one, Guz, but you're wrong. You are wrong. What he's actually doing is giving Knights a little bit of a, a little advantage, a little bit of a leg up. They're just feeling bad for them, just give them an opportunity, because Bliss is playing so well right now that it probably is what Knights need.
I'm ready for you, bastards.
It's not ideal for the final round of the half, but it's not the end of the world. We've seen worse. We've seen full-on, deaths before. Losing half health is not great for Shade, but he's going to be playing in a pretty defensive position anyway for the majority of this round. It's still up to others to be aggressive early on. Dino's been very committed to this Flores, and I do want your thoughts here while it's still early on, guys. Do you think it's been successful or maybe not?
We haven't been able to track its progress in great detail. It has had an impact here or there, killing some of the utility, but this is an objective, for example, that is going to highlight his weaknesses, because there's very few entry points unless you've got boots on the ground where you can actually be effective. You could maybe try and make plays up those stairs, but keep in mind that its countdown is probably not long enough to get it up very far. But you could maybe see an attack mounted from admin side. And there you go, there's an example. Only a couple of seconds left, and Dino's only just able to get that drone to the top of the stairs. And Shade, despite already being taken down quite low, survives perfectly fine. So I believe that this objective in particular highlights some of the weaknesses of Flores on repel-heavy maps.
Yeah, it certainly does. But I think when you also look at those sort of positions like top yellow, it is going to be a prevalent position at times. You know, usually you find a player holding there. We slaughtered a lot of SI, and obviously something like those Rotero drones, when you've got 4 of them, can really be used to flush out any utility there, plus even the player at times too. Minute 25 seconds. The final half of this round, second game of the day for OCN Playday 2. Knights a little bit up and down so far in this first half, but if they can get a win here, I think that they'll be okay. They're not going to be too displeased. 3-3, actually, maybe they'll be pretty happy with that. They've got to make sure that they can play their best to close out this game, because Bliss are looking pretty solid. They're dealing, though, with this clash over towards Long Desk. It's Jigsaw, though, who gets the pick onto Josh. And this is where Dino now, he's got those 3 Rotero drones. He's, you know, he's got his feet down on the ground. He's not repelling. But what can he actually do? The pressure is just really in front of him. He doesn't really need the drones. He needs to just find some kills.
Still quite a bit of utility for the attack to work with here, and Juicy does make it a little bit more achievable, shutting down Repix with the G36. Dino, though, faces the clash. Oda is able to just stand firm and cause a lot of issues for the attack. I don't really know how the Knights are going to approach this. Jigsaw finds one. Shade swings, and despite being so low on HP, finds yet another. It's Hayward in the 1v3. It's an awkward engagement. It's a tough engagement. The Yokai will concuss him as well, and I don't think Hayward has what it takes.
Certainly does not. Team Bliss, though, they do have exactly what it takes. They are playing perfectly so far here on Consulate, taking it right up to the Knights.
Well, it's yet another barn burner in OCN. Welcome back from the break. Team Bliss currently leading 4-2 on Consulate. It's been a hard-fought map indeed, and Knights are looking to bring this back on the side of the fence.
You know what Team Bliss is doing really well right now is they're living. They are just staying alive. Now, look, cheeky plug here for Livin, who, of course, once again, is a major sponsor for the Oceanic Nationals. They are always one of our favorite sponsors to come on board due to the message, you know, the stigma around mental health, and so we always love them being a part. You can support Livin by following them on social media, wearing their merchandise, and of course, for our lovely OCN viewers, you can get some promo codes, OCN15 at checkout to receive 15% off. Simply just type !Livin in Twitch chat, and you can go visit their online store. So big dubs, as always, from Livin. So far, it's big dubs from Team Bliss. 4-2 from the opening half, and pretty close to a potential match point if they can continue their momentum here now in the second half on the attack.
Yeah, Knights there showing a cheeky little technique that maybe some people aren't aware of. On Consulate in particular, quite prevalent. The defense will actually go around the map and shoot a couple of shots into each of the windows, break the glass, but not the actual barricade itself. And what that helps with is some of the sound propagation. It makes it a lot easier to hear when players are repelling. So there's a fun fact for some of the noobs out there like you, Xenox. Or maybe not noobs, maybe it is that is a bit harsh. But it is a fun little trick, and there's a lot of tricks you can learn from watching competitive Siege. So.
And that's the beauty of Siege today, right? So many tips and tricks, and even for yourself, guys, I know that you still learn a few little things here and there after all these years. So that's that is the beauty of it. Repix now making use of those Rotero drones as well. And this is the site where I think it's obviously going to have its most important usage compared to the other ones. And we've spoken already about it at length as to why, but it you know, really does come down to the fact that you don't have to be repelling. Nice little spawn, well, not a spawn peek, but nice shot out the window from Josh onto Oda. And that's what you've got to be careful of over here on Consulate. This is why defensive teams have been so effective on this map, but it's going to be a rush in. They're going to get this diffuser down. Bliss, through those Rotero drones, was able to clear out a lot of the utility, and while Knights are looking for those window peaks, Bliss are looking for the plant.
Retaking Garage Consulate. Yeah, it's rough. It's tough. And Bliss, despite being at the man disadvantage, should be able to hold on, but Josh takes down Todd. And now it looks a little bit more achievable. Josh can jump onto the kit. Shade force wide. He does find Juicy, but Josh keeps sticking. Josh keeps sticking. Can Shade find the kill? No! Not quite.
Defender mission
The
Pros
Knights.
don't fake, guys. They don't fake. Knights understanding the severity of the situation. That is just them being so professional. You mentioned it, and I know you mentioned it a lot, how difficult it is to retake Garage here. And despite Shade landing all of these shots, Josh knows if he gets off that, he loses. It is a straight loss, regardless. He has to just hope that Shade then doesn't swing onto him. Positioned himself nicely, doesn't fake it. Pros don't fake, and Knights get the dub.
That will be a little bit of a tilter when Team Bliss go back and watch that round on the VOD. Oh, Shade looking so sharp, but just didn't quite know there was a player on the kit. Quite difficult to hear over all the ensuing noise, and the Knights get away with a cheeky round there. It was a really well executed plant there from Bliss. Not able to stick it in the midst of all that chaos. The denial from Knights was really quite lacking. The smokes were quite late, but they did enough in the end. A couple of cheeky shots. Enough of a distraction was created, and the stick was very brave, but it did pay off for the end. In the end, for the Knights.
And that's where, without going too deep into it, but stats don't always matter because of those sort of moments, right? You're watching the, the cross, you're watching angles, not because you're trying to get kills, but you're just buying time for Josh to get that defuse, or the counter defuse. So, you don't really mind if you died there. Ultimately, it was the job done. It was a really good, solid team effort from Knights, and a very difficult situation to retake from Garage, and they've gone and done it. That's a big momentum swing now for Knights. It's 3-4. In all honesty, probably should have been 2-5. And so for that opportunity missed by Bliss, it's now an opportunity gained for Knights to be able to sort of rebound here on Consulate, now especially on the defense.
This is a really peculiar position for Dino. I'm glad he fell off, otherwise he may have had his head ripped off. Does survive. No one really taking any damage so far. There's a lobby defense, but Josh is up above, and Jigsaw is taken down. Jigsaw has been quite solid for Team Bliss since his inclusion, and in this map in particular, going 6-6. Definitely not a result to scoff at, or a performance to scoff at so far in this matchup, but unfortunately he is taken down first, and another testament to just how difficult it can be to get inside the map.
Yeah, but it does come down to the team that is defending. If it was the caster stack, every team could just walk straight in. But when it's Knights, it's a very difficult proposition.
Maybe if you were playing in a caster stack. I don't know. If we subbed you out and brought like Robin or something, I think we'd do alright.
Wouldn't Rob be in the caster stack already?
I don't know. I thought he was the sub.
Okay. Minute and a half remaining in this 8th round. Team Bliss with a 1-round advantage, but it's Knights with a 1-player advantage, looking to tie things up here on Consulate. Josh has been impeccable, 11-1-4, some big plays, has been a standout. Don't want to harp on it, but Sage, 0-5. Not usually the Sage we see. Usually he's out fragging for the Knights, but this is why they're such a good team. They got pieces everywhere. If one player's having a few, off rounds, that's fine. Josh is going to go pick up 11. Hayward's also fragging out, takes out Repix. Knights look like that they're going to be able to capitalize this round. 5 versus 3. Minute left on the clock. Bliss are not even on site.
Yeah, Bliss. 3 players on the rappel over towards the south. The Knights do such a great job in shutting each and every one down. That's another to drop the kit. Hayward as well gets in on the action, and now Shade's left in the 1v5. He rushes in towards the end here, but nothing that he can do. It's a flawless round from the Knights. They're loving it. Have a look at them. They are absolutely thrilled with that result. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen any emotion from the Knights players, ever.
About as much emotion from the Order players as well. and honestly, I'm going to be completely honest here, but it's only Playday 2, right? Like, it's early days. And also, we're only going into the 9th round. It's 4-4. This is not the time to be jumping up and down and celebrating like you've just won the World Championship. Like, this is like, you know what I mean? Like, so understandably, it's still ahead in the game. time for the Knights. So 4-4, Bliss have had some opportunities, guys. Haven't quite been able to capitalize to the full extent that they would have liked, but they're still within this match, and they're still a team that's challenging a top team like the Knights. Probably time to just tweak a few things a little bit. Ultimately, it was a really good rush on Garage. Still yet couldn't get the win. And so far, it's a matter of, is this going to be like LFO, where it's just going to end up being an honorable loss?
Yeah. That would definitely hurt Bliss a lot if they were to drop this match in regulation, or for either team to drop this match in regulation. Because, of course, you miss out on at least a couple of points had it gone to overtime. Upstairs we go, though.
Seconds to go.
How aggressive will the Knights play on this defense? We have seen on a couple of occasions that they're not scared to go for spawn peaks. Sage
Attackers must locate and defuse
picking
the
out a
bomb.
couple of magnets there on the window, so that's an interesting strategy. Maybe that's to deny the air jabs from Oda. If he tries to shoot them over towards beating Belk, those magnets might catch them. I think that's the idea behind it anyway.
Well, so I guess proactive placement there, right? Where you're anticipating a move from Oda, which is, you know, smart.
I guess we'll see. Surely he tries to air jab the meeting run out in a second. Maybe. Find out. Here we go.
Yeah. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Great. So yeah, that's really cool. I really like that from Sage. He places a couple of magnets on the windowsill. Oda has now used all his air jabs, and I don't think he's really effectively shut down any runouts except maybe the front door.
Yeah, it was only
first, so
yeah, only front door.
that does make that rappel quite precarious now.
They do get the first pick, though. That's Josh taken off the
Bomb
board.
located by attackers.
Big player taken out because he has been running rampant so far. You're on Consulate for the night, so that's a nice pick. No air jabs, maybe no air jabs needed. Juicy over towards top yellow still has to be dealt with as well. Rapix is now going to park his bum in the corner and sit on those Rotero drones, send them upward and deny some of this utility. And the thing is, it looks easier than it actually is, to be honest, guys, because you've got to make sure, like, you know, you're looking at Juicy's position, he can actually swing that and destroy the drone before it's able to blow up. It's risky, obviously, but it is a possibility. So you can't just almost blindly turn around this corner, otherwise he will shoot it like that.
Right on cue. Hayward as well finding a pick in the meantime. And it was probably because of that run out, which wasn't denied by the air jabs, but Shay just guns them down. Juicy in the 1 versus 4. A flash gets flown out. He manages to avoid that, but now he needs to find these picks. So challenging. Dancing around, dancing with death. Quickly tries to find the player inside a piano, but that's a lost cause. The diffuser is stuck, and this will be a Bliss round. Will it be this engagement? Yes, it will. Repix to close it out.
Yeah, well played from Bliss. Well played from Rapix, but ultimately elsewhere on the site and on the map as well. It was a team effort from Team Bliss, able to get that diffuser down as well. 5-4. And just momentarily, I guess, sort of halting this momentum from the Knights off the back of the last 2 rounds. And just regaining this lead, regaining this advantage. And now they're going to have to build on it themselves. But this is the site I'm cautious of the most. Despite the fact that Team Bliss... cautious for the Knights more than anything. Despite the fact that Team Bliss did not end up winning it. We saw how close they were to winning it, guys. And probably should have won it.
Yeah. Has been a little bit of an awkward game so far. Both teams are making a couple of glaring mistakes now and then, but credit to the teams for the most part. Those mistakes are being capitalized upon, right? We saw the stick from the Knights earlier on Garage. That was, you know, bravery in the face of the mistake there from Bliss and being able to hang on in the post plan. Then we saw in that most recent round, Shade holding down the fort on the rappel. The Knights trying to double down on that run out. But Bliss still being able to win that out. So it has been back and forth. The scoreline reflective of that. It's a 4-5 scoreline, as you can see at the top of your screen.
10 seconds left.
Back down to basement, though. This was where the spicy action of the last engagement went down. Again, casting our minds back. Bliss, they were able to get that plant down. Todd sticking it in the midst of all of that chaos. But then the Knights, and Josh in particular, just sticking it in post plant and not really giving a flip-flop what anyone else was doing, and got away with it. So I'm sure Team Bliss will be a little bit more conscious of that on this occasion, and if they are in a position to get that plant down, really tidy up that post plant.
Yeah. Paul's going to get that exothermic charge off immediately to open up the garage door in front of White Van. Gemini can, of course, get that Sawyer gate. And now the drones can obviously make their way on through. There are Terror drones as well from Repix, if need be. So this is pretty quick work right now from Team Bliss, and they should be pretty happy with their start in this particular round.
A bomb has been located.
Juicy running the Rook, the only serious defender that has the 2x on the MP5. Definitely do quite a bit of damage. In fact, I was actually watching Kengu in the Challenger League qualifiers last night because I couldn't get to bed. He decided to jump onto the Rook on this map as well and just started absolutely clicking heads. So Juicy will be looking to replicate that. Awkward engagement between himself and Jigsaw. The Zofia outside of the breach, but neither player hits the mark as Todd looks to try and get the breach. They swing again, but neither player will connect. The garage should be open fully in just a moment, and Team Bliss might try and get an early plant down.
Again, advantage Team Bliss like the prior round. Dino's getting a beating right now. Shade able to pick him up, and it's Juicy pushing over towards the bottom of yellow stairs. Can't quite win that exchange. Probably needed to. He had to, and he wasn't able to come up with it. Josh now in a 1 versus 5. Bliss are going to be on match point, guys, against Knights. They will be up 6-4 off the back of a flawless round, and Oda, his fanboy in the back, is looking pretty happy.
I feel like we need to relay some information, like blink twice if you're not being held hostage by Oda or something like that. But you're right. Don't want to take away too much from the excitement of this moment. Team Bliss on match point. Wow. Okay. They mean business, but they still need to close it out. At least they've secured a point. Worst comes to worst, if it goes to overtime, they've got a point, but a big 3 in the bag would be impressive. Now, it's not a doomsday scenario for the Knights. I mean, thinking back to stage 1, the Knights didn't have the greatest of starts, but you know, you still want to be performing in your national program, and it has been a little bit messy from the Knights so far here on console.
Yeah, and it's good that you bring that up, right? Because we touched on it very briefly in the Order LFO match, where, you know, LFO were really bringing it right up to Order, and there was maybe a possibility that Order could have started 0-2, and that would have been disastrous. But then we sort of brought up the fact that Knights went 0-2 in OCN last season in the last stage, and from that point they were pretty much unstoppable after that, right? So you can start slow and build from there. It's not just obviously a, you know, a Knights thing, it's just really an any team thing, but it's always good to get off to a good start. I mean, I don't think you can ever really look down on starting well, right? And for Team Bliss, they've got now match point and an opportunity to start OCN 2-0, which I think means more for them than it would, say, a team like Knights. Because if Knights start 2-0, you're like, okay, well, we expect that. But for Team Bliss to knock off Wildcard and then to knock off Knights, to go 2-0, what do they got? They've got LFO next Playday. You probably back them in as favorites in that matchup, so then there's an opportunity for the 3-0. So suddenly you set your season up in the first 3 Playdays, and it's very likely you then make playoffs from there. So this is crucial for Bliss to capitalize. At minimum, though, they have secured at least 1 point.
Pack timeout being used there by the Knights, as we could see from that overlay. Now is a great opportunity to have a quick discussion. It is, as we have discussed, the final chance for them to try and salvage this match and at least get 2 points maximum, because that is the absolute most that they could get, considering that their opponents have found themselves on match point. Bliss putting in a really solid effort so far, and they did just win the previous round flawlessly, no less. Every single engagement going their way, and they'll be really happy with that result. But something that we often see from teams in this region, particularly teams that are more inexperienced, is that they can have issues closing out games. And whether or not that's a pressure thing or their objective pool is maybe not quite deep and the rotation can kind of curse them a little bit. Either way though, this is a great chance for Bliss to prove us wrong and close out this map and start.
But it's not easy to close out against a team like Knights, because you know that they're going to throw everything they've got here in the next 2 rounds. So you're going up against a very, very formidable opponent who's got their, backs up against the wall. And generally the best teams respond when they're in that sort of position. And the Knights, tend to do that. So for Bliss, it's about obviously continuing to play their game and back themselves in here at match point. They've gotten here for, a reason. Ooh. Oh, that great Nitro salvo from Hayward. And this is what I'm talking about. They're going to be the ones to throw the first punch at match point, and they've done that. Knights with a 5 versus 4 advantage.
Hayward and Dino looking to lock down this position, aggressively being held here by the defense. That said, Bliss have 10 drones that can be used. One of those taken down by Dino as shown on screen, but they at least know where the Mozzie is positioned. Not sure if Hayward's position on the water fountain is known, but it's quite challenging for the attack to clear. Again, Bliss, man disadvantage, but Hayward is lucky to get away with his life, but it's a fantastic cutoff there from Oda on the southern rappel. Dino responds with a C4 of his own. Deep in towards admin, he still finds the Flores. And you'd have to say that the Knights are edging out on top in this round.
Yeah, obviously, there's a minute and a half to go and they've got a man advantage. Dino still checking out that admin window position. Oh, so close, but it goes the other way. Jigsaw found his head. Dino did not even realize. And now it's 3 versus 3. Just wonder, is this lobby plant potentially open now for Team Bliss? There's not many numbers alive here for Knights. Shade, though, on site into Piano. How do you lose that one? Good little flick from Juicy. Well played. Oda sending out these air jabs. There's still a minute left. They've got to deal with Sage above. Oh, man. Minute left. Sage, now's the best time to get off this donut.
The attackers know that Sage is above. He was lit up, but what will Team Bliss do to deal with this? It means that they cannot go through the front door. They make a good rotation, a proactive rotation early here with 45 seconds left. I would assume that they're going to head up Visa stairs, try and take control of meeting, and then consider a hatch drop. They could also go to the right of screen towards Spiral Stairs. Either way, though, they need to get a wriggle on. 30 seconds left, and Sage has a perfect position watching this door.
Drop the diffuser. Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
18 seconds left. Nice little 1-2 punch there, but
15
time running out here for Oda to make something big to capitalize on this match point. They'll get another one if Knights do win out here, but it's likely they will. Juicy, some big plays down the stretch. Juicy's all of 2 frames for a second there, and Knights do at least make it 5-6. Keep their hopes alive of sending it to overtime, guys.
Yeah, Juicy hit a nutty flick in that round inside a bathroom. I'm sure the replay will probably show it. That was the end that Team Bliss needed. They had potential control there of Piano, but then just got absolutely destroyed towards the end of the round, and Sage was able to hold down the fort. Good intent there from Bliss. They knew that they had to go above. That was the percentage play, but in the end, not a whole lot they could really do. And ooh, this is a big round. We go above. Knights looking to head it to overtime, and Bliss trying to escape with 3 points.
Three points, 2 points would still be okay if it does go to OT and then they can pull out the win. I don't think you'd be complaining. I think Bliss would have taken 2 points at the start of this game, but 3 is still up for grabs. Otherwise, if this does go to overtime, you probably then back Knights to complete this comeback. It's not a large comeback by any means. It's been a relatively close match. Although, at one point, it probably could have gotten to like a 2-5 scenario. It didn't though. It's 3-4, but that was the way that the game was sort of playing out.
10 seconds left.
Knights have looked good on the defense here, and they've really just made life difficult for Team Bliss. And the rounds that Team Bliss have won is simply off the back of them finding opening picks and then being able to get into sight a lot easier.
Locate a bomb and defuse it.
Windows being shut out here again by the Knights, again making those repels a little bit easier to hear. The northern spawn for the diffuser as Bliss look to try and get entry in towards the map. We've seen them rely heavily on the repels so far and are struggling a little bit to get footholds actually in towards the map itself. That's something that they'll need to try and tidy up. Air jabs have all been expended by Oda. One over towards the yellow exit. I presume one front door again, and maybe one on that meeting balcony. presuming that Sage can do that same thing with the magnets. Not entirely sure. Difficult to tell.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Looking at these pixels on my screen, but maybe I've just got bad eyesight. I don't know. I'm not wearing my glasses.
By attackers.
My fake glasses.
You know, if you keep wearing those fake glasses, you're going to need real glasses. Shade has got some good eyes, though, to catch Sage. Advantage Team Bliss with 2 minutes on the clock. Oh, headshot back. One tap from Hayward. It's all he needs. Jigsaw off the board. And it is going to be normality restored, 4 versus 4.
Repel's still being held here from Bliss. Shade, though, shuts down Dino. That's the Jaeger off the board. As Repix continues to apply pressure with those Rotero drones.
Doesn't get anything, though.
Not yet. Cleared the barbed wire, I believe, but that's about it. Talk about clearing, though. Shade with a grenade will shut down Hayward.
Sorry to cut you off here, but this is almost a repeat, guys, from last time we saw this. You know, Juicy over towards top yellow and just, you know, dealing with those Rotero drones while everyone else just sort of dies around him, and then Bliss get on site. Match point. And it's just a repeat. Josh, though, top of main stairs, over now towards long desk, pushing in. Still at least some sort of presence over towards the sites. Just
He's still under the pump.
But that's fine, by the way, because he's not getting any util.
Yeah. And Repix has now used, or is currently using his final Rotero, also shut down. But the thing is, Bliss have a heavy man advantage. If they decide to send it in towards the site, they should be able to trade it out. Also being pressured from down below, but there is a yellow ping. So Juicy has some intel to play off. The flashbang will force him back. Bliss trying to clear this position as Todd goes for the plant.
He's on site, and Juicy just saw him at the last second get onto site, but it might be too late. Shade's got 4 now. Juicy pushing over, but he's got 2 minutes to deal with. Team Bliss are insane. They are 2-0 to start Playday 2 as Oda's fanboys are going crazy. Look at him go. They look relieved. They look happy. They look pumped. Big win, Team Bliss.
Give him a shoulder massage, boys. Give him a shoulder massage. Look, let's be honest. Oda wasn't really doing a whole lot outside of shooting out air jabs. It was all the Shade show in that final round. My word. Massive 4K 16 and 7 across the entirety of that match. A sheesh indeed. And a bit of a sheesh for the Knights. Bliss, a 7-5 victory. Wow, that's impressive.
That is very impressive and sets themselves up for a good season ahead here for Oceanic Nationals. They go 2-0 to start this stage, knocking off, of course, one of the contenders as well. Knights have got some, I guess, soul-searching to do after that one, Guz.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing there for the Knights. It was, I mean, at the best of times, Consulate can be a bit of a messy affair, but this one in particular, the Knights just making a couple more mistakes, particularly the last few rounds. They were quite dominant in the side or in the favor of Team Bliss. There were, you know, some good positive signs. We saw that the stick in garage for the counter defuse of the Knights and a couple other plays here and there, but yeah, honestly, the Bliss just looked like a bit more of a well-rounded outfit in the end. The scoreline reflected that it was a really close and a well-fought game by both teams, but in the end, those Bliss attacks were just a little bit more potent than the Knights could deal with.
And it's not like Knights played that horrible either. I mean, I probably would say they weren't at their best. Their absolute, you know, 110% best, you know, in the playoffs or something along those lines. But they still actually played pretty well. And Bliss stood up to the challenge here. This was a great shot from Juicy. Ended up winning that entire round for the Knights. But I think the difference maker in this series, or this one map, I guess, because it's not really a series, was the ability for Bliss to get those opening picks and then their ability to capitalize on those opening picks, right? So that was, I think, the difference maker in this match. And ultimately, Shade was also the difference maker too, 16 and 7. But, you know, he's able to do that off the back of the work of, you know, the teammates that he's got around him. You know, you look at Repix went 9 and 8 and spent half the game sending out Rotero drones, right? So how can you expect him to get much more than 9 and 8 when he's busy playing with the drones?
Yeah, and on the other side with Hayward, right, +3 on entry is not a stat to be scoffed at, particularly when only 10 rounds were played and your team itself only won 5 in total. it felt like, again, I don't have the stats necessarily to back this up, but he was red hot at the start of this map, and then unfortunately he started to drop off a little bit for the Knights, and it felt like maybe just overall the whole team started to take a little bit of a dip, and Bliss capitalized upon that momentum even when the Knights on match point against them tried to utilize that tactical to, I guess, break it up a little bit. It didn't work out in the end, and Bliss were able to keep their composure, and it looked like maybe they would slip at that final hurdle, but at the end of the day, they got 3 points and they can't complain.
A man who has figured out how to eat a zinger box, Guz. We're going to go and have a chat with him, your old arch rival. Congratulations, Oda, on the victory. A big one at that for Team Bliss. You guys start the season 2-0 in the first week, but I did have to ask, what's with the mates behind you?
The mates, just support, you know.
Bliss up, baby.
Making me feel good, fist bumps all around.
All right, Oda, serious question now. Consulate, how are you feeling about that map at the moment? Obviously, it's a pretty wild one, and it's actually pretty attacker-sided at the moment, or defender-sided rather at the moment, because of the way that teams are approaching it. Was that a little bit scary maybe for you guys in that second half trying to close it out on the attack? How did you feel?
Not at all. Honestly, I felt strong on both defense and attack. With our streams recently, we've been strong on both sides. So just going into that map, we knew, you know, we could get the dub, and we don't worry at all, to be honest.
You guys looked really, really good, actually. I think it might be the best I've seen you guys play for maybe ever, or at least quite some time, especially against a team like the Knights. What's the expectations for the season now? You guys have started 2-0, great first week. Is it now top 2? Is it first? Sky's the limit? What's the go?
Oof. I'm feeling a cheeky first this season, boys, eh? You know, we had it for a bit last season. We threw at the end. I'm feeling this season #1 spot.
Yeah, cool. All right, Oda, what's the go at the Zinger box, mate? Did that ruin your pre-game ritual heading into this one? I know that you didn't have a plate, or I don't think you had a plate on hand. Did that actually play into effect today? And will you be using a plate from now on? You managed to win a game without one.
Look, I didn't play too good today, boys. I think I might have to bring the plate out, eh? I think the plate is what makes me pop off.
You got carried.
Whatever works for you. He got carried. Look, Shade was amazing today, but you guys as a team, as a whole, were really, really good to watch. It's very exciting to see you guys performing the way you were able to do. Any final shout-outs before we let you go?
Shout out the boys, shout out iSurge. And that's it, it's my boy, he's got my back.
Awesome work. Well, that's going to be us done for this interview, mate. Go and have a proper zinger box. Go and have a meal. Or go and, I don't know, drink a few beers with your mates.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
Loving the cheer squad, dude.
Yeah, look, I tell you what, I wish I had someone like behind me just, you know, cheering me on as I'm guzzling along here. But big win for Bliss, and obviously happy times and smiles all around. And it's a good little story that they've got to start the season here, 2-0, guys. It's, you know, is the lid off? Are they able to sort of think big, first place?
I don't know. Well, as Oda said himself, they sort of found themselves in a similar position, and it was in fact a little bit deeper into the last stage where they were at the top of the standings, and they, quote unquote, his words, they choked it a little bit and lost that lead. So I don't know if first is going to be, you know, the most realistic target for this team, but you can't deny they've had a banging start. 2-0. Yeah. They've taken down the Knights as well, arguably the strongest team in the region. So they're off to a really good beginning, and they'll be looking to continue that form on.
Yeah, hashtag Bliss up indeed. Good start to the season. It's the halfway mark here for Playday 2 of OCN. When we come back, we've got Chiefs versus Rafflecopter.